There have been some insanely overpowered things throughout Zombies history. While some might say that a lot of the things on this list are completely broken, I think that especially in a PvE mode, stuff like this is just a blast. Whether it's unlimited ammo for wonder weapons, getting to start the game over at round 1 with the click of a button, or being basically invincible for 250 points. Zombies has had a wild ride with weapons, equipment, and other items that changed the way the game was played. In this video, we're going to talk about what comes to mind for me when I think of overpowered things in Zombies, starting from World at War and moving all the way to Black Ops 6. There's no doubt I'll leave some things out that may have been even more powerful than others that I did include, so let me know everything I missed in the comments. Without further ado, let's hop into none other than Nocturne Toten. Now, when you see this map, of course you're gonna jump to the ray gun. It's the only wonder weapon in Nocturne Toten. There's no perks, no real good weapons, no gobble gums, there's only a couple wall buys, the only equipment are grenades. So what else could it be? Well, you would actually be wrong if you did guess the ray gun. The ray gun in Nocturne Toten is honestly maybe good for earlier rounds, but if you're gonna run a high round strategy with the ray gun, it becomes more of a hindrance than actually helping you. It does more damage to your own player than it does to the zombies. If you shoot at your feet on Nocturne Toten with the ray gun, you down instantly. And on top of that, when the rounds start getting into the 20s, it just creates crawlers rather than insta-killing. So, what else could it be on Nocturne Toten? Well, if you're an OG, you know very well what it's gonna be, and that is the flamethrower. The only infinite ammo weapon on this map turns out to be your only chance at survival. Into the higher rounds, the strategy becomes running in a circle and tapping the zombies with the flamethrower, whittling away at their health until they finally go down. I have to say this may be the most boring one on this list, and to call it overpowered may be a stretch as it does take essentially perfect training to be able to use this. But given that it's the only way to get to high rounds, to my knowledge at least, on this map, I wanted to kind of have a baseline of what we're starting with, so as we move on to the truly overpowered things, we can see just how far we've come. If you're new to Zombies, you may not know just how hard World at War was, especially Nocturne Toten and Verrückt. Now I would honestly say that if you could get above round 30 on Nocturne Toten, you were probably in the top 90 to 95% of Zombies players, and it really is something that you can brag about. Like I said, there's no pack-a-punch. Basically, all of the normal bullet weapons become useless. The ray gun is better for killing yourself than it is for killing the zombies, so you have to perfectly train for hours and hours to get to the high rounds, just tapping with the flamethrower over and over. But in theory, this is an infinite damage, infinite ammo weapon that, like I said, is your only hope of survival on this map. For the rest of World at War, we don't really get much that I consider to be overpowered. There's the Flogger trap and the other electric traps on Verrückt and Der Riese, and then you have the Wunderwaffe, which sure is a great wonder weapon, but I feel like more so it's just a good gun, and those are good traps, but they aren't overly powerful. Even though they can be used to get to high rounds, I think that those maps aren't just straight up easy, but they are a lot easier than something like Nocturne Toten. So, moving into Black Ops 1, and again, you may be thinking, oh, for sure it's the Thunder Gun, or maybe even the Gersh device, or the Zap Gun on Moon. But my pick for Black Ops 1 is actually the pre-nerf crossbow. If you don't already know, the crossbow, when pack-a-punched, turns into a monkey bomb, so when you fire a bolt onto the ground, the zombies run after it and don't attack you for the time that it takes to explode. Now, this did get nerfed, like I mentioned, but before that, it was basically a free horde killer. You got 14 bolts, so 14 monkey bombs on top of the monkey bombs you had in your tactical slot if you got them from the box. And while the zombies don't react instantly, it basically is a get out of jail free card in a game before those were in existence. It almost acts like a free ether shroud or decoy grenades from Black Ops 6. And if you were running high rounds on Kino der Toten, the crossbow was an essential piece of that puzzle. Also, if you didn't know, I did quickly want to mention that the ballistic knife in Black Ops 1 also, when pack-a-punched, allows you to revive players by shooting a knife at your down teammate. So if you were playing as a duo on Kino der Toten, you could have one person with the crossbow pack-a-punched and another with the ballistic knife pack-a-punched. And basically, as long as you don't go down at the same time, you should be able to get your teammate up with ease. The crossbow player can just shoot at the ground and go revive the other teammate, and the ballistic knife can just do a drive-by and shoot a knife into you and you get right back up. While the crossbow is still good after the nerf, you can see that it just creates so many crawlers. So the power really did drop, and I missed the explosiveness before they nerfed this, but it is still fun to use. Now, moving into Black Ops 2, we're looking at Mob of the Dead. And again, there are a few things that could have made this list, like the Hell's Retriever / Redeemer, which is basically an infinite lethal that you can use to get to high rounds, or obviously the Vitrolic Withering, which is one of the coolest wonder weapons ever made. But for me, it's actually the Golden Spork. Having a melee weapon that can one-shot into the mid-20s is a crazy concept, and it's such a cool Easter egg to get it with this ominous hand rising out of the bloodied bathtub. I think really for this map it is a combination of all the three that I just mentioned that add up to be overpowered, and also it really only matters because melee kills gave you more points back then. So with the modern day point system, I don't even know if this would make the list. But moving on, still in Black Ops 2, I'm willing to bet that no one saw this coming. The jet gun. And no, I'm not talking about Liberty Falls version. I'm talking about the OG, the one that if you overheated, broke, and you had to run around all of transit recollecting the parts and rebuilding it. Now, I know when this came out, there was massive backlash in the community for how bad it is. But actually, as time has went on, we've realized that the jet gun is actually technically one of the most overpowered wonder weapons ever made in Zombies history. It is essentially infinite ammo, infinite damage if you use it correctly. If you just use the jet gun in short bursts and swap back to your weapon, you can reset the cooldown to be able to use it even faster. So pretty much all of the high round strategies on transit use this method. And again, it's one of those things where I'm sure you could get to high rounds on transit with traps or whatever else, but the jet gun makes this super easy if you do know what you're doing. Now, still in Black Ops 2, we're moving over to Die Rise, and you all know what this one's gonna be. It is the pre-nerf Sliquifier. If you didn't use this thing and you're on PC, I highly recommend trying to find a mod that allows you to go back to the pre-patch version of the Sliquifier. You basically can just shoot this thing on the ground and it stays for like 20 minutes. And all the zombies just slip and fall over and over and die to the acid. And the crazy thing is, even after the patch, I would argue that the Sliquifier is still one of the best wonder weapons in the game. So you can only imagine how good it is before they nerfed it. It has high ammo, it's pretty easy to build, you don't even really have to train, you can just camp and shoot over and over without moving and you'll be just fine. I think this is where we start to get truly into the overpowered things. At least some of the other stuff took some skill. With the jet gun, you have to know what you're doing. With the spork, you have to get up close and personal with the zombies. With the crossbow, there is that delay, so it's not just an absolutely free get out of jail card. And with the flamethrower, obviously, you're playing on World at War, which is just super difficult in the first place. But with this, it doesn't matter what you do. As long as you have this thing, you probably shouldn't go down. One more thing in Black Ops 2, and really I should say a few things, but one specifically gives you basically unlimited power, which is ridiculous and no one should have this much control over the game. Of course, we're talking about the buried time bomb, but first those other things I was talking about is actually the bank system as well as the fridge. With the fridge, you can store a gun, non-wonder weapon, but it can be upgraded, and basically if you can get to the fridge in a subsequent game, when you load in, you can have a pack-a-punch gun on round 1. Same with the bank. You can stow away points, depositing them from a game in which maybe you made it to a high round and have a ton of points left over that you didn't need to use. You deposit those points into the bank, go to the next game, start fresh on round 1, and you can withdraw all of those points, basically giving you thousands and thousands of points, even on round 1. Now, pair this with the time bomb, and it becomes absolutely broken. You can throw down a time bomb, then withdraw thousands and thousands of points, and then use that time bomb to effectively go back to before when you actually withdraw those points from the bank. So those points are still in the bank, but now they're also in your character's inventory. So you basically have an unlimited money glitch on Buried. Now that is easily overpowered enough to already make this list. But the insane thing about the buried time bomb is that in any public match, you could get this thing on round 1 if you're lucky enough with the box, throw it down in a corner somewhere, and then no matter what round you get to, No matter what your teammates do, even if you're on like round 50, you've been playing for a few hours, you're well into a strategy, you can just, at the click of a button, restart the game at round 1. Now, if you've never looked into this, I highly recommend looking up some Black Ops 2 Buried Time Bomb Rage compilations. There are some pretty hilarious videos out there with reactions to getting put back to round 1 involuntarily. And like I said, this is just absolutely a terrible idea. It would get used in such a bad way in the modern day especially. But even back then, there were some prank videos going around, so highly recommend checking those out. But that's all I had for Black Ops 2, and let's move into the game where, unsurprisingly, we're probably going to be spending most of our time. First, I want to talk about shopping free. If you weren't around when this was a thing, it was so much fun to just run around for 1 minute, buy everything possible you can in the map. And if you were quick enough, you could basically be set up on round 1. Yes, it was ridiculously overpowered, but I feel like that's kind of the point of Gobblegums. I mean, it's an ultra rare mega. With a name like that, it has to be overpowered. And obviously, we can talk about pay to win all we want, but when you did get one of these for free, it was so much fun, and it's something that I know a lot of us saved up to only use when we were trying an Easter egg or doing something special, so I know it holds a place in our hearts for a lot of us. Now, I have heard they are bringing this back kind of for Black Ops 7. Instead, it's called a gift card and it gives you 30k points rather than 1 minute of unlimited points. And I mean, I'm glad they're bringing it back, but I think this version is so much more fun. Seeing that timer count down gets your heart rate up and you just feel so powerful for that 1 minute. I think it won't be quite the same as just getting 30k points immediately, and they don't expire or anything, so there's no like rush of adrenaline, but it's a minor complaint, and this one was overpowered anyway. It definitely would not work with the Black Ops 6 system, where you could easily spend hundreds of thousands of points in seconds by upgrading your 2 weapons to tier 3, your melee weapon to tier 3, buying all the perks in seconds at the Wonder Fizz. It just wouldn't work, and that's alright, but it was a super fun one back in the day. Now, unsurprisingly, we're going to be in Black Ops 3 for a while, and this one is something that I think that a lot of people take for granted and may not necessarily call overpowered, but just looking at this footage here, Widow's Wine was insane if you think about it. If any zombies hit you, they get tangled up in these spider webs and start to move at a very slow pace, and you could argue that it slows down your horde and kind of breaks up the group of zombies that you have, so you have to now dodge the slow movers and the fast movers. So I do think this one is a little balanced actually, but even still, thinking about if this was in modern zombies in Black Ops 6 or 7, with how easy it already is, if you had Widow's Wine with these super sprinters, I feel like this would just make the game trivial. Combined with armor and all the augments, I think that it would just make the game so easy. Now, after that quick one, we cannot move on from Black Ops 3 without talking about alternate ammo types, or AATs. Basically, on any Black Ops 3 map, you can buy any weapon and upgrade it twice to get an AAT. These are randomized, and basically all of them are good. Brain Rot, Fireworks, Blast Furnace, Deadwire, it really doesn't matter. There are some that are better than others, but we're just going to talk about them all because it is insane what they can do. You can buy a Shiva off the wall, which is arguably the worst gun in the game, put Blast Furnace or Deadwire on it, and you can easily make it to round 100 if you know how to train. Now, while I do think this is too overpowered, I will say there are not many people that can train perfectly for 100 rounds, only getting to kill batches of zombies at a time while you wait for your AATs to cool down. So while I don't think they need to make AATs this strong in future games, especially with how powerful we already are, I do kind of miss Deadwire and Blast Furnace being this good. And I know a lot of the people watching this video probably did play back in the day, but if you haven't and you're watching this as a new Modern Zombies fan and you see me running around with the Shiva on round 120 and surviving with ease, I would argue that you should go back and try it for yourself to see if it really is as easy as we make it look, because you might be surprised. I'm not saying that it's super hard, but there is a skill curve involved, and I think that's kind of why Black Ops 3 is so well loved. You could be overpowered if you knew what you were doing, but a lot of times it still did take skill to stay alive, and especially to make it into the higher rounds. Now, still in Black Ops 3, we're moving over to Shadows of Evil, where we have a combination that should be on the Mount Rushmore of overpowered things in zombies. This was one of the most fun and entertaining combos ever to grace gaming. Alchemical Antithesis and an overpowered wonder weapon. especially the Apothecant Servant, but even something like the Wonderwaff on the Giant, or the Thunder Gun, or whatever you may want to use. If you don't know, Alchemical gives you ammo back into your stock based on points earned. Essentially, it's like free fire. But back in Black Ops 3, you could use this for wonder weapons. So that means on Shadows of Evil, with the Apothecant Servant, you can shoot infinite black holes during the Alchemical's timer, and it was just so much fun to use. The timer was short enough that it didn't just seem absolutely broken, and obviously you have a finite supply of these gobblegums, so you do have to use them somewhat sparingly unless you're dropping hundreds of dollars. But man, when you did pop one and you had the Marstagua in your hand, there's just not much more you can do to have a better time in Call of Duty. Now, taking it one step further, in that same vein, still in Black Ops 3, looking at yet another gobblegum, we have Power Vacuum, which is actually coming to Black Ops 7, and if it's as strong as it was in Black Ops 3, it is an insane addition that will probably be used in most high round strats in the future. Basically, it puts the chance of spawning power-ups through the roof. As you can see, there will be at least 3 or 4 power-ups on your screen at all times during this gobblegum. So back then, that meant death machines, insta-kills, double points, nukes, basically every second that this gobblegum is active. In Black Ops 7, that should mean that you'll be able to spam your field upgrade with all the full powers you get. You can just run through hordes because you'll be getting max armors over and over. Without the death machine and insta-kill combo, I'm not sure how it'll feel. I mean, you'll basically be invincible with the amount of insta-kills and nukes that it spawns anyway, but there's just something about the old death machine having unlimited ammo and getting that insta-kill too. It just felt so good. With this combination, Alchemical and Power Vacuum, you were just invincible during these gobblegums timers. Even on round 100, 200, it didn't matter. And I will say that these probably are broken, but it's something that you had to grind for or pay money for, and I feel like these are just so much more fun than something like getting your weapon to gold rarity, which you're gonna be doing anyway. Maybe you can just do it 5 rounds earlier, or triple pack-a-punching, which is the exact same thing. So I'm not necessarily hoping that they bring absolutely overpowered gobblegums into Black Ops 7, but I do wish they had some more fun ones, rather than just speeding up the normal things that you do in games already. Moving into Black Ops 4, we're actually going to start with something that I think was appreciated during its time, but kind of underrated on the scale of what we would call overpowered, which is actually the stiletto knife attachment for the Strife pistol. You can start with essentially a mini bayonet on the end of your pistol, not only speeding up your melee attacks, but making them so much more powerful than if you only had a normal knife. Now again, pair this with the point system in Black Ops 4 that gives you extra points for each melee kill, and basically if you don't have this attachment on the Strife, you are missing out on hundreds if not thousands of early round points that if you did have this attachment, it would make the game so much easier and your start would be so much quicker. And you can see you don't have to worry about running out of ammo, and the lunges are super quick. As long as you're a little careful, you're really in no danger of going down. Now that one's a quick one, but I will say I think it was a fun attachment, and while it's on the overpowered list, I wouldn't mind it coming back, especially with the new melee system in Black Ops 7, where again we can get more points for critical melee. I think that could be a fun idea and encourage people to use pistols as their starter weapon, but let me know what you think on that one. Now, moving on to what arguably may be the most overpowered thing in Zombies history. Again, if I had to vote for a Mount Rushmore, Alchemical Antithesis and the Apothecant Servant on Shadows, the Hellion Salvo from Black Ops 4. This thing was better than any wonder weapon in the game. You didn't need any gobblegums to use it. You just pack-a-punch it, boom, you have the best weapon in the game. Now you do have to pull it from the box, which actually honestly makes it a little more difficult to get than even the wonder weapons in the map since you can build them. But if you got this thing, you could basically just shoot it at your feet over and over, and the splash damage would kill zombies basically infinitely. It's pretty much the meta for every boss fight in the game, including the elephants and the Voyage of Despair boss fight. Honestly, if you don't use the Hellion Salvo, those boss fights could be considered a challenge to some, but with the Hellion Salvo, it's honestly trivial. I think it honestly got to the point where the community was almost a little annoyed at how good it was and how long it went unchecked. I mean, to my knowledge, I still think the Hellion Salvo never got nerfed. Maybe it did a little bit, but it's still the best gun in the game, as far as I know. Now, staying in Black Ops 4, we have the infamous shield method. Now, I've been staying away from like glitch spots because there are plenty of those, and invincibility glitches, stuff like that. Now this is essentially that, but it's actually because of game mechanics that the game devs did put in themselves. You have to use a specific perk that buffs the shield, and this really only works on classified or any other map that has a shield spot like this in the corner, where you basically just hold out by the shield over and over as it breaks. Use the shield's gun because it actually does near infinite damage, and you're essentially invincible. You can make it to round 150 for the classified boss fight, and the hardest part is just staying awake. You don't even really have to pay any attention. This is one of those things that I do look back fondly on, and thank goodness it was there, because I did not want to get to round 150 legit just to watch that cutscene in classified so I could say that I have done it, but I'm glad that something like this is no longer in the game, honestly. Now, last thing in Black Ops 4, I did quickly want to mention the Spitfire SMG, which reminds me a lot of the Scorpion from Black Ops 2. Basically, its rate of fire is just through the roof, but it also had a pretty decently sized magazine, and it was just one of the only actual bullet weapons that I saw any of the speedrunners or high round strategies using, so I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate that. It may not be overpowered, but it was a great gun, and I do have some fond memories using it. Now, moving into Cold War, and this is kind of where it gets tough because essentially everything is overpowered. This game is not very hard. With the new field upgrades, you could argue that Ether Shroud is extremely overpowered. Clearly what you're seeing right now, Ring of Fire is the most overpowered one, which is actually what we're going to talk about next. So Ring of Fire, it's loved by the community. They have begged and begged for the devs to bring it back in Black Ops 6 and 7, but I just don't honestly see it happening. I think Frenzied Guard is the closest we're gonna get, because just look at this gameplay. It basically gives you infinite splash damage, and all you have to do is stand in this little ring, but it doesn't matter that you're confined to this small space, because the zombies can't even get near you. I mean, they can't even spawn in. While I'll be the first to admit this was an absolute blast to actually play in the game, it did get old going for high rounds in this way, but then again, what high round strategy doesn't get old? By definition, you are having to do the same thing over and over for 50 plus rounds, but it's a very tedious line that you have to walk between too easy, too hard, too tedious, whatever the case may be. And I think this one was just a little too mind-numbing. Now, that's actually all I had for Cold War, just because there's so much that's viable that basically nothing is really overpowered, in my opinion. But let me know what you think, as I also didn't play nearly as much Cold War as I did with any of these other games. Now, for Black Ops 6. This is honestly pretty similar to Cold War in that there are so many guns that are good that could be considered overpowered. You have the starting pistols, the explosive sniper, basically any pistol honestly. They made pistols amazing in this game. Same thing with shotguns, the ASG, and the Maelstrom. The Asval is very good. There's several ARs that are just very, very good. But I think that those do feel good because of how easy the gameplay actually is. It's not necessarily that the weapons themselves are that amazing. So we're just going to talk about one gun. And of course, that has to be the Maelstrom shotgun. The Maelstrom actually came in one of the later seasons of Black Ops 6. But it immediately became the meta for almost every Easter egg and every zombies speedrun in the game. This gun, coupled with the Dragon's Breath attachment, makes it easily the strongest weapon in the game. It has a super high rate of fire, especially once you get double tap, and it just makes Black Ops 6 zombies so easy. I remember at the start of this game's life cycle, I thought the Terminus boss fight was super difficult. Definitely not impossible, as I did beat it several times, but still I thought it was a real challenge, and especially I wanted to get into the boss fight before like round 25, before the boss's health scaled up, as even with tier 3 gold papped weapons, I just felt like I didn't do much damage. But with the Maelstrom, it just doesn't matter. Even if you're on round 50, Pack-a-Punch tier 2 with that thing is gonna chunk the boss's health, and it honestly is borderline in need of a nerf. If it wasn't for how much fun it is. The gun just feels so good to use, and I think if Black Ops 3 taught us anything, it's that being overpowered isn't always a bad thing. Like I said, there is a fine line to walk with it, because respectfully, with the gameplay you're about to see, it can just become a little mind-numbing at times. So with that, we're going to talk about the Ice Staff on the Tomb in Black Ops 6. As you can see here, the entire round 100 strategy is spamming the charge shot of the Ice Staff. That's it. You basically have unlimited ammo for this wonder weapon due to the ammo drops, mainly from the Vulture's Aid augment that drops extra ammo for your wonder weapon, but also there are just so many boss zombies anyway that have ammo drops that you will never run out of ammo. No matter how much you shoot, it just doesn't matter. You just spam this thing at the ground, anywhere in the room. It'll take out all the zombies easily, and all you have to worry about are the boss zombies. And with that, you can usually just use the trap or just run circles around them because of the ice storm that slows them down, and you're basically invincible. The tomb is honestly one of the most mind-numbing and easy round 100 strategies. But again, I wouldn't necessarily change this. I'm happy that the ice staff is so good. I would definitely rather that than it be underpowered. But I do think that the combination of unlimited ammo and essentially unlimited power is where it takes it a little bit too far. Saying that I got to round 100 on the tomb means nothing to me and shouldn't mean much to the zombies community either. Like I said earlier on in the video, I would have 10 times more respect for someone that gets to round 30 on Nocturne and Totem than I did for someone that got to round 300 on the tomb. And I think that's the difference between the overpowered nature of the old games compared to the new ones. The new ones are already easy, so when you add an overpowered weapon, gobblegum, or equipment to the mix, the game just feels a little bit pointless because it really doesn't take hardly any skill to accomplish this. It's just a time suck. It just takes 2 or 3 hours to get to round 100, and if you have any zombies experience at all, in my opinion, you should be able to do this on your first try, in all honesty, with no gobblegums. But with that, I hope you enjoyed this journey back through zombies history, and I know I left out so many things that you probably think are overpowered too. Mainly the things that are coming to mind now are stuff like the Thunder Gun, the Wraithfire equipment from Black Ops 4, the Chopper Gunners in any game that they're in, but mainly in Cold War, and I'm sure there are a ton of gobblegums like Killing Time or many others in Black Ops 3 that I didn't mention, but I hope to hear from you in the comments on what you think, and I'm glad you spent some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.